We're going to talk about multiplication of fractions using models in this video. But first we need to clarify some of the language that we need to use in order to be able to do this. So if we had this right here, 5 times 3/4, we would say 5 groups of 3/4 in each group. We could show that on this number line by splitting it into quarters and taking groups of 3/4 until we get all the way over to 3 3/4. Or using repeated addition 5 times of 3/4, which would give you the same answer. Now this changes slightly when we go to multiplying a fraction by a fraction. So if we had, let's say, 1/4 times 1/3, the language we use is you want to find 1/4 of the group of 1/3. So we want to find out what 1/4 of that 1/3 is. So let's just start by doing one example using the fraction blocks. So if we had 1/3 times 3/6, what this means is I want 1/3 of the group of 3/6. So I'm going to start by modeling 3/6, that second fraction. So this shows 3/6. These blue ones are sixths. I have 3 of them. I'm just showing them comparing to the whole. But I'm actually going to get rid of that whole now. So I have 3/6, and what the question says is I want 1/3 of those. So of this group of 3, I only want 1 of them. So this is what I actually have. My answer, though, compares to the whole again. So what I end up getting actually is 1/6 of the whole. So if we were to actually look at the process here, you might want to write these down. Start by modeling the second fraction. Then we're going to regroup that. The first one was already in that group, so it worked out. But regroup the fraction so that the bottom of the first fraction will go into what I have left. It'll make it easier. And then 3 is to find how many groups needed. So you can write this down. I would pause the video and then you can play it again and we'll go through a few more examples here. So some more examples. Let's say I have 1/2 times 4/6. So I want 1/2 of the 4/6 that I have. So that means I'm going to start with 4/6. 3/6, 4/6, and I want 1 out of the 2 groups. Okay, so what you can do is actually make these into 2 groups. And I want only 1 of those groups, so this one can go, so I'm left with this, which is equal to 2/6, or you might recognize that as the same as 1/3. So 1/2 of 4/6 is 2/6, or 1/3. Let's do 1/3 times 1/2. Or I want 1/3 of the group of 1/2. So I start with a half. That's 1/2 of the whole. So what I need to do is I need to split it into groups of the first denominator, or the bottom of the first fraction. So if I get into groups of 3, it'll be good. Well, sixths are what put it into 3. So now I have my 1/2. I want 1 out of 3 of the groups of what I have right here. Well, what I have right here, 1 out of the 3 would be one of these. These two are gone. So I just have to compare what I have left to the whole, which again is 1/6 of the whole. Let's try 3/4 times 1/3. So I want 3/4 of 1/3. So I'm going to start with 1/3. 1/3 is one of those of the whole. I need 3 out of 4 groups of just this much. So I need to find something that will split it into 4 pieces. The only thing that will do that are these green ones. So now I have it in a group of 4. And my question says I want 3 out of those 4. So I want 3 pieces out of the 4, so those can go. And what I'm left with is 3/12, or the same as 1/4. I'll just put a couple questions on here for you to try. So give those a try. You can pause the video. I will show the solution to those in a second. So here's the solution. I'll model these. Start with 3/4 of the first one. I want 2/3 of the group of this 3/4. Well, 2 out of 3 would be this much. So that would equal 2/4 or 1/2. Okay, my second one here, I start with a half. I want 1/6 of that half, so I need to split it into 6 pieces. And I only want 1 piece of those 6 that I have, 1 of those. And that's going to equal 1/12.